It's for emergency surgery for my son, Marcus said, his voice breaking over the phone. Please, Nathan. The doctors say we need to pay up front or they won't operate. I'll pay you back as soon as the insurance comes through, I swear. My name is Nathan Kellerman. I'm 38 years old and I work as a financial advisor in Tampa, Florida. I'd known Marcus Rodriguez for 15 years, since college. We'd been best friends, best men at each other's weddings, godfathers to each other's children. So when he called me at 11:30 p.m. on a Tuesday, desperate and crying about his 8-year-old son needing emergency surgery, I didn't hesitate. I transferred $10,000 from my savings account that night. 24 hours later, I was scrolling through Instagram when I saw it. Marcus, raising a champagne flute on the deck of a luxury yacht, Miami skyline glittering behind him. The caption read, "Living my best life. Shark's yacht life. Miami. Blessed." The timestamp showed it was posted just 3 hours after our phone call. I stared at my phone screen, trying to process what I was seeing. My hands were shaking as I screenshot the image, then scrolled through more photos. Marcus jet skiing. Marcus at an upscale restaurant. Marcus with a woman who definitely wasn't his wife Elena. All posted within hours of his emergency call. I set my phone down and walked to my kitchen window, looking out at my modest backyard where my daughter's swing set sat under the oak tree. $10,000. That was more than most people had in their emergency funds. That was 3 months of my mortgage payments. That was the money I'd been saving for my own daughter's college fund. And Marcus had taken it to fund a weekend party in Miami while lying about his child being in the hospital. I didn't call him immediately. I didn't send angry texts or demand explanations. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee and did what I do for a living. I analyzed the situation. Marcus thought he was dealing with his old college buddy who'd always been there for him, who'd never questioned his stories, who'd bailed him out before without asking hard questions. He had no idea he was now dealing with someone who spent his days tracking down financial fraud for wealthy clients, someone who knew exactly how to follow money trails and uncover lies. The first thing I did was call Elena. Marcus and Elena had been married for 12 years. She was a pediatric nurse at Tampa General Hospital, one of the most genuine people I'd ever met. When she answered the phone, I could hear the confusion in her voice immediately. "Nathan, is everything okay? It's kind of late." "Elena, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Is Danny in the hospital?" A long pause. "Danny? No, he's upstairs doing homework. Why would you think? Has he needed any kind of surgery recently? Any medical emergency?" "Nathan, what's going on? Danny's perfectly healthy. He just had his annual checkup last week. The doctor said he's in excellent shape." I closed my eyes. "Where's Marcus right now?" Another pause, longer this time. "He said he was at a work conference in Orlando. Some big client meeting that came up last minute. He left yesterday morning." "Elena, I need to show you something. Can I come over?" 30 minutes later, I was sitting in Elena's living room while she stared at the screenshots on my phone. Danny was indeed upstairs, very much alive and healthy, working on a science project about volcanoes. Elena's face cycled through confusion, shock, anger, and finally a cold fury I'd never seen from her before. "He told you Danny needed surgery?" she whispered. I nodded. "Emergency surgery. Said the doctors needed payment up front or they wouldn't operate. Said you were at the hospital with Danny and couldn't come to the phone." Elena set my phone down with shaking hands. "That bastard. That absolute bastard." She looked up at me. "Nathan, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. He told me the Orlando conference was mandatory, that his boss specifically requested him. I even packed his suitcase. How much do you know about his finances?" She shrugged helplessly. "We have separate accounts for personal expenses, a joint account for household stuff. He handles his own money. I handle mine. It's always worked for us." She paused. "Or I thought it did." I pulled out my laptop. "Elena, I need to ask you something, and I want you to think carefully before you answer. Has Marcus asked you for money recently? Has he mentioned any financial problems?" "No, nothing like that. If anything, he's been spending more lately. New clothes, expensive dinners, talking about maybe getting a boat." Her eyes widened. "A boat? He's been talking about buying a boat for months. What does Marcus do for work exactly?" "He's in sales for a medical device company. Makes decent money, but not yacht money." She gestured at my phone. "Not Miami weekend money." I spent the next hour walking Elena through everything I could see from the social media posts. The yacht wasn't just any yacht. It was a 78-foot Sunseeker that rented for $3,000 a day in Miami. The restaurant was Joe's Stone Crab, easily $200 per person. The woman in the photos was tagged as Sophia Miami Real Estate. A quick LinkedIn search showed she was a luxury real estate agent who specialized in waterfront properties. "He's not just cheating," I told Elena gently. "He's living a completely different life, and he's funding it by lying to people who trust him." Elena was quiet for a long time, staring at her wedding ring. Finally, she looked up at me. "What do we do?" "We?" I asked. Nathan, you've been like a brother to us for 15 years. If he's doing this to you, if he's lying to me... She straightened her shoulders. I want to know everything, and I want him to face consequences. Over the next 3 days, Elena and I worked together to uncover the truth. Elena found credit card statements Marcus had been hiding, $47,000 in debt across 4 different cards. I used my professional resources to track his financial movements. What we discovered was worse than either of us had imagined. Marcus hadn't just lied to me about Danny's surgery. Over the past 18 months, he'd borrowed money from at least 8 different friends and family members, always with elaborate sob stories. His brother Carlos had given him $5,000 for Elena's cancer treatment. Except Elena had never had cancer. His parents had mortgaged their retirement home to give him $25,000 for a business opportunity that never existed. His sister had taken out a personal loan to give him $8,000 for legal fees after he claimed he'd been wrongfully arrested. Every single story was a lie. Every single person who trusted him had been manipulated and exploited. But the real revelation came when I ran a background check on Sophia, the woman from the Miami photos. She wasn't just a real estate agent. She was Marcus's business partner in a luxury vacation rental scheme that existed only on paper. They'd been taking money from investors, promising huge returns on Miami Beach property investments, then using the funds to live lavishly while the investments never materialized. He's running a Ponzi scheme, I explained to Elena as we sat in my office on Friday afternoon. He takes money from new victims to pay back old ones, all while skimming off the top to fund his lifestyle. The Miami trips, the yacht, the expensive dinners, it's all paid for with stolen money. Elena stared at the financial documents spread across my desk. How much money are we talking about? Based on what I can trace, at least $180,000 over the past 2 years. She put her head in her hands. Oh, God. His parents. Carlos. They trusted him. Elena, I need to ask you something important. Did you sign any documents recently? Anything related to your house or finances? She looked up sharply. He asked me to sign some papers last month. Said it was for refinancing our mortgage to get a better rate. Why? I already knew the answer before I pulled up the county records. Marcus had taken out a $75,000 home equity loan against their house, forging Elena's signature where necessary. Their home, which had been paid off 3 years earlier, was now at risk of foreclosure. He mortgaged our house, Elena whispered when I showed her the documents. He mortgaged our house without telling me. That's when something shifted in Elena's expression. The hurt and confusion disappeared, replaced by cold determination. Nathan, I want to destroy him. Legally, properly, but I want him destroyed. I leaned back in my chair. Elena, I'm not just a financial advisor. I also work with federal investigators on financial crimes. If Marcus is running the kind of operation I think he is, this goes way beyond just lying to friends. What are you saying? I'm saying we can do more than just get your money back. We can make sure he faces real consequences. Sunday evening, Marcus returned from his work conference in Orlando. Elena had prepared carefully for his return. She'd done her nails, bought a new dress, cooked his favorite dinner. When he walked through the door with flowers and apologies about being out of touch due to intense meetings, she welcomed him home with a smile and a kiss. I was parked across the street in my car, watching through the window. We'd decided Elena would act normally for one more day while I finalized the evidence package. Marcus had no idea that his wife now knew everything, or that federal investigators were already reviewing his case. Monday morning, I walked into the FBI's Tampa field office with 3 boxes of documents, financial records, social media screenshots, and witness statements. Agent Sarah Chen, who specialized in financial crimes, listened as I laid out Marcus's entire operation. How long has this been going on? She asked, flipping through bank statements. At least 2 years that we can prove, but I suspect longer. And the wife had no knowledge? None. She's been completely in the dark. Marcus has been living a double life? Agent Chen nodded. We'll need to interview her, and we'll need you to make a controlled call to the subject. A controlled call. That meant wearing a wire and getting Marcus to admit his crimes on tape. When? How about now? 2 hours later, I was sitting in my car outside Marcus's office building. A recording device hidden under my shirt, FBI agents listening from a van parked nearby. I called Marcus's cell phone. Nathan, hey man, sorry I was out of touch this weekend. You know how work conferences are. Marcus, we need to talk about Danny. A pause. Danny? What about Danny? The surgery. I wanted to check how it went. Silence stretched between us. Then, oh, right. Yeah, it went well. Really well. Danny's doing much better. That's great to hear. I was worried when you called Tuesday night. You sounded so scared. Well, as a parent, when your kid needs emergency surgery, he trailed off. What kind of surgery was it again? Another pause, longer this time. It was appendix. Emergency appendectomy. I looked through my windshield at Marcus's office building, knowing he was somewhere inside, spinning lies while federal agents recorded every word. Marcus, I need to ask you something. Are you planning to pay me back? Of course. I told you as soon as the insurance money comes through. Should be any day now. Because I saw something interesting on Instagram this weekend. Dead silence. Nathan, I can explain. Can you? Because it looked like you were having a great time in Miami while your son was supposedly recovering from surgery. That wasn't what it looked like. I had to go to Miami for work and I just... Marcus, stop. Just stop. I took a deep breath. I know about Sophia. I know about the yacht. I know about the investment scheme. I know you've been lying to everyone. The line went quiet for so long I thought he'd hung up. Finally, his voice came back. Different now. Smaller. How much do you know? Everything. Another long pause. Then, Nathan, look, I can fix this. I can pay you back. I just need a little more time. How? With more money stolen from your family? It's not stealing. It's borrowing. I always intended to pay everyone back. With what money, Marcus? Your Ponzi scheme is falling apart. The luxury rental properties don't exist. Sophia is bleeding your investors dry, and you've mortgaged Elena's house without her knowledge. I heard him suck in a sharp breath. You don't understand the pressure I've been under, the expectations. Everyone thinks I'm so successful, and I just wanted to live up to that. By lying about your son needing surgery? I panicked, okay? I needed the money fast, and I knew you'd help if it was about Danny. I was going to pay you back. When, Marcus? When were you going to pay back the $180,000 you've stolen from friends and family over the past 2 years? Silence. Then quietly, you can't prove any of this. Actually, I can. I'm a forensic accountant, remember? Following money trails is what I do for a living. Nathan, please. Think about Elena. Think about Danny. If this comes out, it'll destroy them too. You should have thought about that before you forged Elena's signature on a home equity loan. The sharp intake of breath told me he hadn't known I'd discovered that particular crime. Look, he said, his voice taking on the manipulative tone I now recognized so clearly. We've been friends for 15 years. We're family. Family helps family. I made some mistakes, but we can work this out privately. You're right about one thing, I said. We have been family, which makes what you did to me, to Elena, to Danny, to your parents and your brother and your sister even worse. Nathan, the FBI is already investigating, Marcus. It's over. I hung up and removed the recording device, handing it to Agent Chen, who had approached my car. Got it all, she said with satisfaction. Marcus was arrested at his office 30 minutes later. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal proceedings, asset seizures, and victim interviews. The FBI discovered that Marcus's scheme was even larger than I had initially uncovered. He'd defrauded a total of $340,000 from 17 different victims over 3 years. The luxury rental properties in Miami were completely fictional, existing only in glossy brochures and fake websites. Sophia had been arrested in Miami, where she'd been living in a penthouse apartment paid for entirely with investor money. Elena filed for divorce and was granted emergency protection for their marital home. The judge ruled that since Marcus had forged her signature on the home equity loan, she wasn't responsible for that debt. The house would remain hers, though it would take months to sort out the legal complexities. I keep thinking I should have known, Elena told me as we sat in a coffee shop near the courthouse after one of Marcus's hearings. 15 years of marriage, and I had no idea who he really was. He's a sociopath, I replied. They're experts at compartmentalizing, at showing different people exactly what they want to see. The worst part is Danny asking where his dad is. How do you explain to an 8-year-old that his father's in jail for lying about him needing surgery? I didn't have an answer for that. Some betrayals are too complex for children to understand. Marcus pled guilty to wire fraud, money laundering, and identity theft. The federal prosecutor recommended a sentence of 8 to 10 years in federal prison, with full restitution to all victims. His lawyer tried to argue for leniency, claiming Marcus was suffering from gambling, addiction, and depression, but the judge wasn't impressed by the sob story approach. Mr. Rodriguez, the judge said during sentencing, you systematically exploited the trust and love of your family and friends over a period of years. You used your own child as a prop in your lies, claiming he needed emergency surgery to manipulate people into giving you money. This wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment or a cry for help. This was calculated ongoing criminal behavior that destroyed the financial security of multiple families. Marcus received 9 years in federal prison. 6 months after Marcus's sentencing, I received an unexpected call from Carlos, Marcus's brother. Nathan, I wanted to thank you, he said. I know this whole thing has been hell for everyone, but if you hadn't exposed him, he would have kept going. He would have destroyed more families. How are your parents doing? Carlos sighed. They lost their retirement home, but they're staying with me now. They're devastated, but they understand they were victims too. It's going to take time. And the restitution? We'll get some of it back, eventually. The government seized Marcus's assets, and they're liquidating everything. It won't be the full amount, but it's something. I'd gotten lucky. As the most recent victim, and because I'd been instrumental in building the case, I was among the first to receive restitution. The FBI had recovered $6,800 of my $10,000, with the remainder coming from Marcus's seized assets over time. Elena's doing well, Carlos continued. She got a promotion at the hospital, and Danny's in counseling, but he's a resilient kid. They're going to be okay. After we hung up, I sat in my office thinking about trust, about friendship, about the difference between loyalty and enabling. For 15 years, I'd been Marcus's friend, but I'd never really known him. I'd seen only what he wanted me to see, believed what he wanted me to believe. A year later, Elena remarried. A doctor she met at the hospital, a widower with 2 kids of his own. She invited me to the wedding, where Danny served as ring bearer and seemed genuinely happy to have a new father figure who actually showed up for him. "You saved my life," Elena told me during the reception. "If you hadn't uncovered the truth, I would have lost everything. The house, my savings, my ability to trust anyone ever again." "You saved yourself," I replied. "You chose to face the truth instead of living with the lie." As for me, I learned to be more careful about who I trust with my money and my heart. I still help friends in genuine emergencies, but I verify everything. I document everything. I learned that real friendship doesn't require blind faith. It requires honest communication and healthy boundaries. Sometimes I wonder if Marcus genuinely believes he was the victim in all of this, if he's convinced himself that everyone else overreacted to his borrowing money. Sociopaths often rewrite history in their own minds, casting themselves as misunderstood heroes rather than calculating predators. But I don't lose sleep over Marcus Rodriguez anymore. I sleep well knowing that 17 families received justice, that a predator was stopped before he could destroy even more lives, and that sometimes, when you shine a light on the truth, it burns bright enough to illuminate everything hidden in the shadows. The $10,000 emergency that never existed exposed a man who never really existed either, at least not the version of him we all thought we knew. In the end, the most expensive lesson wasn't financial. It was learning that some people will use your love, your loyalty, and your compassion as weapons against you. The trick is making sure that when they do, they're the ones who end up destroyed by the experience, not you.